Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending upon where you live around the world. Righty-ho. This is a replacement video for one I'd done weeks and weeks ago, where I looked at the angles that you can perhaps require or have as a resource at least for the domes. Why would you want to have all these angles? Well, if you were creating, I'm not saying these ones are required, but if you were creating the dome where you have the light struts that make up the triangle, you may need some of these cuts to create those compound angles so that each triangle can nest together and come together nice and neatly. Are they all needed? Surely these ones down the bottom aren't needed. Well, you'd be correct, but I wanted to include them because, well, if I had the two angles here, I might as well pop this angle in as well to give you a complete, as much as we can, makeup of all the angles of this honeycomb. What other angles could I include? Well, if we're creating the struts, we may need the dihedral angles. Okay, so there's lots of those. They don't vary a huge amount from side to side, but as you can see, there is a difference from side to side. In this case, only 0.3 of a degree. That's fine, just average it out, and that would be as good as you could get. Or, now that you know what it is, you can make adjustments as you see fit. Here, there's a 2.7 degree difference. So that one you might actually want to try and tweak whatever method you're using to create the dihedral angles. You may want that measurement. So I have. What else have we got? Well, we've got these angles. Why do you want these? Well, if you are creating a hub, like I want to use, a steel hub, I need these angles to know at what point I need to drill my hub so that it will take the bolts that would go through into the struts. Okay, deep breath. What about these angles? You certainly need these if you're creating the angles of the surface, and they are different from, if you can see through the transparency of this angle. So 47.3 and 46.1 are two distinctly different angles. This is for the this is the angle between the lines of that surface on the angle. That they are different from the ones on the flat, like these smaller ones, is important because this is okay for you. Why am I laughing? Because it's even when I'm saying it, it sounds awfully pedantic. But note that the triangle that we created, that is at a 90-degree angle when seen down in plan view, isn't when it's inclined. So this what you would think would be a 90-degree angle isn't. It's 87.8. So you need to know that there is a difference so that you don't make the assumptions that, of course, this one's just going to be 90 degrees. Well, no, it's not. What other ones have we got? Well, we've got that one and that one and that one. So what I'm kind of having a wee bit of a laugh at is there's lots of flaming angles that you need if you're going to do the different processes within a dome. I'm sure people that have made successful domes in the past haven't worried about all these angles. Fantastic. Congratulations. However, I'm trying to create a resource for this particular dome that has all these angles that may be used in different circumstances. Could I get away with a lot less information? Hell yes, of course you could. But I don't know how the plan or this approach is going to be used. So I'm trying to cover all bases. And trust me, there are even more angles than this. Not many, I would hope, but more. So I'm going to just remove these angles for a moment. One angle could well be the angle of the hub relative to the vertical or horizontal. Why do you need that? Well, to be fair, I don't think you will, but it may be that that angle may be necessary when you're constructing some other component or panel for a dome. For instance, there could be, and I'm not going down that path, a case to be made for when you divide this dome into different iterations through the grid layer. Actually, I'll just hide I'll hide some of these other parts here, and if we were to have this rotated round, doesn't really help. There's too many lines for that to show up. But if we wanted to create panels at the points of division, then having those dimensions or angles may be necessary. I'm going to bail on that one because that became way complicated really quick. So within this resource, I have the angles that I think will be necessary for my projects, that anyone drawing their dome would be different, would of course get different outcomes for the angles, and that would be up to you. And that is why I wanted to create the very clear drawing process upon which these honeycombs and wire frames can be built, because you can build upon it, the method, you can build upon it to create your own version. I went off the look of geodesic dome as a structure some time ago, but when I saw this quad based, or the truncated one, so that it actually has 4 corners, I thought, oh, I actually quite like that. So that is why I started back down this path to recreate my much preferred now dome. So it becomes the pergola, carport, gazebo type structure. And it's been a bit of an experience. I've made almost 100 videos, most of them 10 to 15 minutes long, so you can imagine how much work's gone into that, which I've enjoyed. But now I could almost retire 90% of those videos. There's videos held within that number of videos that is probably still important to retain, and I don't know which one will have the particular bit of information that an individual would like to have. And to be fair, I don't think there'd be many people would wade through that many videos trying to find that information. So it's probably up to me now to cull most of those videos and just retain, almost work backwards. This is the conclusion. What other videos are available that would support this sort of outcome? Here's a question. Not worried about that at the moment, but I don't want to make this an onerous task for someone to get to this stage for themselves. You don't want to repeat what I had to go through, sort of thing. Okay, well that's it. This is mainly the video to show where we're at with the angles, and hopefully we can go forward making other observations and progress, although I think we're quickly getting to the point, potentially at least, where we will have to end this series. Righty ho, I'll leave you with that, and I will see you possibly in the next video. Now, bye.